CINEMAGGOTS. Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Welcome back to CINEMAGGOTS. My hair is a mess, but I don't care because we just watched Dunkirk. And as one commenter that you saw on, what was it? Twitter said, who is Dunkirk? Well, this film answers that question very loosely.
Who is Dunkirk?
Yeah, very, very loosely.
Who is Dunkirk?
Well, Dunkirk is this film, and it was made by Christopher Nolan, who I am not a big fan of. So when I say that I really, really adored this film, I don't want people to think, oh, it's a Christopher Nolan fanboy thing. I don't like him, and I'm not the biggest fan of his films. I like the Batman movies. I don't think, like, loads of people think The Dark Knight is one of the best superhero movies ever made. I don't personally agree with that. So Christopher Nolan as a director, not my kind of thing.
So you went into this thinking...
I thought I was gonna see some kind of different thing. Yeah. I thought it was gonna be his style, in a kind of war movie based on actual events, and I was a little bit worried about it. And then obviously reviews have been mixed. I think generally it's been positively received, but audience reception has been mixed. So I went in, I was like, not sure about this, and then we came out, and wow, I don't know if I'm in the vast minority here, but I loved it.
No, I completely agree. I loved it. And because I didn't want to obviously talk to you through the film. No, I didn't say a word. I was hoping that you'd feel the same way.
Yeah,
when we came out.
I think
we came out and neither of us really said anything apart from, oh my god. Yeah. When we came out.
Spoilers, by the way.
Lots.
I think personally it's his best film he's done. I think his style works with this kind of story really, really well. Yeah. There's lots of reasons for that, but I'm going to start with you. What struck you about Dunkirk? You
know when people say, oh, it's a war movie?
Yeah.
You imagine it to be frontline action, don't you? I guess your first thought is going to be stuff on the front line. It does smack you in the face, but at the same time, not in a kind of action way that a lot of these films would be done.
It's about waiting.
It is. It's the torture of waiting for the unknown, and you know, 9 times out of 10 in that situation it's going to be a bad result.
It's going to be a bad.
It's going to be a bad. I felt the heaviness of it from the beginning.
Yeah, that's the word. It's the heaviness.
If that makes any sense.
Okay, I'm not well versed in war things. I studied World War II, who didn't at school, but it's not a thing that I'm massively interested in. But for those who don't know, the story of Dunkirk, if I'm correct in thinking, because I've only heard about it through this movie, which is probably a good thing that this movie exists for that. But it's something to do with the Nazis taking control over a bit of France, right? Or something like...
Northern France.
Northern France. And all of our troops have been stranded and stuck.
Yeah, that's what I gathered as well.
Yes, in Dunkirk. And there were 400,000 soldiers that were stuck. And they were basically stranded. They couldn't go into... They were on the beaches.
They couldn't go inland and they couldn't go out to sea. They were just
because they were basically surrounded. They were stuck. They needed to get back. You could see Britain from where they were. They just couldn't reach it.
Yeah.
And every time they got a massive warship in, it was bombed. So basically the mission was, let's get all the civilian boats in. Yeah. To get as many people back to shore as possible.
We went into this thinking, oh, we'll give it a go. You know, we've read good things about it. The trailers looked good.
It must be better than the Emoji Movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of already went into it not feeling negative about it, but kind of thinking this is going to be sad, this is going to be upsetting, and of course it's a true story as well.
Yes, it is.
You know, all that stuff, and yeah, it was sad and it was depressing. However, I've never seen a war film done in that way. Whether there is one, and I just haven't seen it.
We wouldn't know, I'm afraid.
I don't know, but I've never seen one that actually kept my full attention.
Interesting that you say, because the film doesn't focus on characters. What it is, it's basically a collection of 3 different stories going... Well, not even stories, but three different events going on. You've got everything going on at the beach with the commanding officers and everything trying to figure out what the hell to do.
Yeah.
And you get to see on that end the the guilt that they have with planning about who they have to leave behind and how they can't get the French in. They have to think about their troops first, and they don't do it lightly. They're stuck in the middle of it. They feel awful. You can see it. It's portrayed really well. Yeah. And then you have the story of the couple of people who you see at the very beginning. There's the one guy that gets out of the city alive. And then you basically follow him, and he meets other soldiers, and they basically band together and try to keep alive while they wait for their turn to get back. He tries to get on the boat a few times.
You couldn't even say he was a main character.
No, he's not a main character.
There aren't any main characters.
So then you have those characters that are just trying to survive in their own way, and then you have so there's more than three events. So you got that, and then you got that. You've got the other the main civilians that you focus on that are bringing their boat in, an old man, his son, and the son's friend, who are trying to they're doing the mission that they have to do. They bring the life jackets, they have to do their mission, and then they pick up someone who's suffering from shell shock because he was bombed. And he obviously goes mental because he knows that he's going back to where he just tried to get away from. And then you have the story in the sky. Like
we're saying that they're separate stories, but they all connect.
Yeah, of course,
because the people in the Spitfires, if they didn't do what they did, the people in the ocean, in the sea would be screwed, and vice versa.
Yeah,
so
everything works together. Yeah.
It's so hard to describe.
It's really hard to talk about this film. The way that it's structured is very much like I said. There's no main character that you focus on. You don't learn. You don't need to learn about names and goals and ambitions and everything, because that's the point of the end of the film, as you discover that Dunkirk, the whole event, was just described as a military fuck-up, basically. And it was just wiped under the carpet by the sounds of things. So that's the point the film is trying to get across. It still makes you care because of the way it's structured. You jump between these different stories and different events going on, and every single story that you cut between ends with a cliffhanger on how they're going to get out of that one. So 1 second, the group of survivors will be hiding out in a boat, and then all of a sudden, bullet holes start coming through the side. You don't have a second to think about what's going on before cuts to the Spitfires. One plane goes down, and then there's a massive oh my god, what do we do? One of our planes is down. Moves on to the next bit. Then it's like, we can't save everybody. We can only do we can't bring any more warships in. It's like, yes, but we've got 400,000 people. We can't do this. So then, before you have a chance to think about that, on to the next thing. It's
very much feelings. I don't know how else to put it.
It's really the problem is because it's not a conventional film. Like I said, there's no hero or heroine or villain. It's not done like that.
It's just another day in the war.
In the war, exactly. And how it happened. But it's like, so going back onto the technicalities of it, the theme of time is set literally from the second it begins. You don't only get the time it will take for the Spitfire to get across, and the time for the civilians to get in their boat across, and the time that it would take for the soldiers in the massive queues on the beaches to get home. It gives you all that time, but it also has, constantly in the back of the score, a ticking clock. And the score works with this clock. It does stop sometimes, and it's not loud or anything, but it's there.
It makes an impact when it stops.
Because it does.
You realise that, oh god, there's no sound.
But that must be when the people that you're looking at are thinking that time has halted. Like if you're waiting for a bomb to drop, time halts. When you think you're gonna die or anything, the time halts. But then every other second there is this ticking. And then when something really tense is about to happen,
it goes quicker.
The time it's like a pulse, like you said in the cinema. It's like a pulse.
It really heightens the stress. As the viewer, doesn't it?
Which makes everything 10 times worse, and it's constantly reminding you of that.
And the fact that the situation can change in a second. A lot of them think they're safe in this big ship, don't they? Like, oh yeah, we're going home. Then, literally out of nowhere, bomb drops. Whole thing sinks. And I would say that more than half of them didn't make it. Whereas probably 10 minutes ago, they were having a cup of tea. Something to eat, and then it's just. I think it was at that point I had my little breakdown.
Karis broke down a little bit.
I did.
She cried.
I had a soggy face for most of the film.
She cried quite a lot. I was more flabbergasted at what I was seeing, because it's not gory or anything. It nails how serious and awful the situation is from the theme of time and the way that the score was, because this is something else in the technical aspect. Christopher Nolan likes to, in his films, so scenes together with a continuous score. The Batman movies do it, Inception does it. It's a continuous thing.
Yeah.
It heightens, it peaks, it troughs, blah, 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 blah. And I don't think it works in all of his films. I think it makes everything feel like one big, long, like, song. And
like, you don't get a break.
No, it just doesn't make you feel like you're watching a film. It makes you feel like you're watching one big scene, you know? They don't do the whole horror movie jump scare thing. It just...
No, that would cheapen the whole thing.
Yeah, of course it would, of course it would. The sound design is some of the best I've heard in a film, I think. I know this sounds basic, but the gunshots, the bombs, they are loud.
Yeah.
They are loud, they're sudden, they're unpredictable, and they are scary.
Yeah,
because of how, not just because of how loud they are, but because of what they represent, obviously. Yeah, and like the scale is shown off in one of my favourite shots of 2017, if that is something I'm going to do, which is when the civilian boat is heading towards Dunkirk, the one that you're focusing on, and then you see one of the, I think it's a warship, I'm not sorry, I don't know, but that's going back to the shore, and it's just a row on the sides of the deck, just rows of soldiers just looking at them and thinking, there's no cheering or anything like that. It's just like, oh my god, you guys are gonna die. And the camera follows the boat while the other one goes off behind, and it's a long shot, and it just shows you the scale of everything that's going on. And it shows you how impossible it's gonna be for this little tiny boat to even make a slight impact in the grand scheme of everything, even though in the end it does. And then in the end of it, it's like it's a callback to that. It's like it's a full circle, because then the entire event of Dunkirk was a tiny event within the grand scale of World War II anyway. And no one seemed to talk about it. When you combine that scale with, like, when a bomb drops, like dozens of people will fly, dozens of people will drown, and then like there's the bit where the boat starts crushing people against, like, when it's floating away, and then they want to get away and they're all panicking. It's just crazy. So much stuff goes on within the film as well. Not only is it seen as a small victory from when they all get home finally, all the alive people get home, but it's seen as a small victory when the Tom Hardy Spitfire does its job. It runs out of fuel, but he's still flying around. He still shoots down the planes while he can. And then all of the extras and everything, they all cheer. Every single... And you can just feel this sense of, like, unity, and like everyone is in on this, which is great, because then there's the contrast with people like Harry Styles' character in the group
what
of
did you think about him?
Got maybe 6 or 7, 8 lines. He hasn't got much dialogue.
To say there's barely any dialogue in the whole thing. The script's probably one page
Definitely
long.
works better as an actor as he does a singer, in my opinion. But there you go. The way that, like, his character is the complete opposite of everything that's going on. He's selfish. He's a dick. But then you can't blame him for that. You feel for every single character, because they all react to what's going on in their own way.
They just want to get home.
Yeah.
They just want to get home. And if his way of getting home is, you know, treading on a few toes to get there, I'm sure that wasn't... It's shit, but I'm sure it wasn't uncommon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At the time. So
yeah, absolutely.
You can't blame the guy.
Yeah. Because usually they try and make you feel like... malice towards the commanding officers that had to do all of this and decide who needs to be sacrificed, but you feel for them as much as everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, you
feel for Tom Hardy, who basically sacrificed everything to make sure that everything worked, and then in the end he's like, there's no point even doing this anymore, and he's done his job, and he burns his Spitfire that's crashed into the beach. Yeah, and then obviously there's the depressing smack of the ending with, I think, was it Churchill that made the statement? You see every effect of that part of the war, and the scary thing is how it's shown off to be a huge thing, but it is still only the tiniest part of
in
what
the grand
was
scheme of World War II.
Of what was going on.
Blip.
It makes the impact of everything gargantuan. There's also the sense that all of the people on the beach can't escape what's going on either, even if they're standing in a straight line, but they can't go forward and they can't go back, and if they try to go forward they get bombed and pushed back, and if they try to go back they all just get shot. But while they're on the beach they're constantly reminded on what's actually going on, because all of the bodies keep washing back up onto the shore when the tide keeps coming in. There's not even any swearing. There was one fuck, I think.
One fuck?
Yeah, one fuck. But it doesn't need to do it. Even the beginning bit when the two main characters, the one that you see coming out of the city, when he gets one of the injured men on the beach onto a stretcher and he tries to get onto that boat to get home, and then you see that the bridge that they're crossing is not only full of people, thousands of people, and they have to get past every single one before the boat leaves, but then they also notice that there's a bomb that's broken a part of the bridge and they need to run across this tiny little plank. And then as soon as they make it across, everyone starts cheering because they made it across the tiny little gap. They get onto the boat and then they get sent off and they try to hide on the side of the boat and then the boat gets bombed. There's just no escape from what's going on.
Even though it was a tiny victory on the day, it actually probably had an enormous impact.
Well, absolutely, yeah. It tackles it all with brutality but also respect and dignity.
Yeah,
it doesn't cheapen the story with, oh, I have my love interest, we have to get out of this situation alive, and weird comparison, it doesn't do a Titanic. The film is an eerily accurate window into something that happened. Acting is flawless, directing is smooth as anything, and as a non-Christopher Nolan fan I was massively impressed. Every single thing works, and because of that, I'm going to give this 10 out of 10 maggots. Not because it's one of the best films I've ever seen in my life, and not because, it was like, oh my god, I want to go and watch it again, but because I haven't got, there's no such thing as a perfect film, perfect game, perfect book. It's impossible. There are flaws in everything. But for what this film goes out to do, I wouldn't change a single thing about it. So that, as far as I'm concerned, would constitute a 10. I would not change anything. I thought everything had its place, and it was great. It was brilliant, yeah.
I completely agree with you.
Oh, you're going 10 as well?
I was umming between 9 and 10.
Why 9? Just curious.
For me, the initial impact for seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, okay, I know what you mean there.
That won't be able to be repeated.
Yeah.
If I watched it again. However, I haven't been hit by a film like that for a really long time. Yeah, 10 for me too.
I mentioned on Twitter that everyone should go and see this film, and there was a load of people that were like, it wasn't that great, which is fine.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everyone at all, and I can understand why there's that dislike, but as far as I'm concerned, the way that film was made, this is what you've got to look at it as its kind of film that it's being made as. It nailed it. I honestly think it nailed it. So
I think so too.
Yeah, go see Dunkirk, support it. Do not go and watch the Emoji Movie.
Take tissues.
Well, I think you were the only one crying.
I don't know.
I think so. If it's your birthday today or watching this video, happy freaking birthday to you. Please remember to stay beautiful.
We'll see you next time.
If Caddicarus doesn't cry to death.
Sad. Sad Dunkirk.
Who is Dunkirk?
Who is Dunkirk?